"You need to work on this area," my coach said. The wall started closing in on me. "Don't worry, Alexa, it's just this area," she said again. I finally found the words and I said, "Oh, okay, I think I can do that. Thank you." And then I walked my 19-year-old self away to go cry in the comfort of my car. This was the shock of my life. I had just been told that I didn't make next year's Song Girl dance team for the University of Southern California, one of the most prestigious dance programs at the collegiate level. And I was so shocked, and so all of my friends were so shocked because I was what you would call a frontline dancer. And even though for a year I had danced on the front line and I was never told anything about working on this area, I soon learned that I wasn't going to be on next year's team because, quite frankly, my hips were too wide. Now, it was this time in my life where I sought the comfort of my family and my friends, like anyone would. But what I really wish I would have done was sought that comfort in myself. I wish that little voice that we have in the back of our heads would have spoken up and said, "Alexa, you are so much more capable. The width of your hips is not any indication of your ability to move mountains." I wish that voice would have said, "Forget what your coach said. You are enough." But no, of course not. That voice that I so desperately needed, that voice was silent. And it remained silent for the next 9 months of my life. Now let me give you a little backstory here. Alexa the dancer was one of my core identities growing up. I really did it all since age 3. Tap, ballet, jazz, hip-hop, contemporary, lyrical, you name it, I did it, and I was good. I won multiple awards for my solo routines and my team routines, and I was often leader of the teams I was on. I was one of 8 girls to make the Song Girl dance team out of 80 who auditioned the year before. And here's a little insight into Song Girl world. Boys and girls idolized me because a Song Girl was supposed to be pretty, perfect, and peppy. She did everything right, and she deserved the best in its most base form. The attention I received were others, projecting their perfected and sexualized images onto me. Most oftentimes I saw the perks of people's admirations more than the negatives, and the reality was I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now I want to say that I know that as an actor, as a gymnast, a cheerleader, physicality is part of the job. I get that, but there's an issue that arises when performers are objectified for their physical prowess and not appreciated for their talent. I don't have many reservations about my body now. I'm not a size 2 supermodel, but I'm physically capable of dancing. And if anything, I could bust into a 5-minute high kick routine for you all right now. But I think I'll spare us the drama and the time. What I eventually came to learn is that the coach and the judges, they didn't see me as Alexa the dancer. They only saw me as Alexa with the hips. Perception was the culprit here. And it was largely their perception that led me to feel like I wasn't enough in every aspect of my life. It led me down a road I would wish upon no one. It led me to waking up every morning for the next 9 months hating my body. My self-worth, my happiness was in my coach's hands, and it led me to compulsive exercising, to dieting, to where you're not really eating food anymore, to seeing and spending way too much money on a nutritionist. And I did all of this up until the point where I didn't recognize who I was anymore. And I knew I hit rock bottom because I believed them when a group of people told me that I didn't look good enough to be one of my core identities. And when that's taken from you, one of your core identities, there's nothing that leaves you feeling more powerless. But what eventually gave me power was realizing that this whole decision was made based on a criterion that had nothing to do with my ability. The bottom line is that my capacity as an individual is not determined by what I look like, and I don't want any girl, young or old, to be told she can't do something just because she doesn't physically fit a certain mold. I was once told to speak my truth, even if my voice shakes. And I was told this from the founder of this organization called I Am That Girl, and it was through her teachings that I learned about this foreign language called self-love. And it's crazy what happens when you start talking to yourself the way you would a dear friend. When you start appreciating little aspects of who you are instead of tearing yourself apart all the time. I learned that language is the reflection of our inner experience. So how I talk to myself would determine my self-worth. I learned that negative self-talk was a learned behavior, and I had the opportunity to unlearn this behavior. And so I tried. I learned that the average woman in the United States has 13 thoughts of self-hate a day. When I was at my low point, I was probably averaging double that. And I also have this funny story about me trying to learn self-talk. It was a few months after I got cut from the team. I was in the gym of my apartment building. It was late at night on a Thursday, and I was at that point where I wasn't sad about the situation anymore. I was kind of in that vengeance stage, and I wanted the coach and the judge to regret cutting me from the team. And so I remember being on the elliptical, and I was doing my thing, and I used my words, and I said, "I will be a Lakers girl. I will be a Lakers girl." And that's so embarrassing. I can't believe I just said that. But that was my reality. And fun fact, it's many other girls' reality too. A study by the National Institute of Media and the Family has found that 53% of 13-year-old girls are unhappy with the way their bodies look. By the time these girls are 17, that number rises to 78%, and when they hit adulthood, it's 91%. That's how mad, sad, frustrated we can be sometimes at our bodies. And another initiative, it's called the Dove Self-Esteem Fund, a global initiative looking at the confidence levels of tween and teenage girls around the world. It's found that 6 out of every 10 girls has avoided participating in some type of fundamental life activity because she wasn't confident in the way she looked. You know, these statistics, they seem unreal, right? I mean, it shouldn't be this way, but it is. And the fact remains that we let our perceptions of our image be transformed by what others say about us. It's a lot harder to stand in the sun and confidently and triumphantly tell everyone you know that you believe in yourself, that you know deep down others' perceptions of who you are and what you look like don't matter. It's a lot harder to proclaim to others that you will build a strong foundation out of the bricks they may have thrown at you. It's a lot harder to be strong, and it's a lot harder to know in your soul that you are enough. And I know it's hard because I lived it. And what got me through from being at my low point to realizing that I had this enoughness inside of me was thinking about my 6-year-old self. And when I was 6 years old, what I wanted. What I wanted more than anything at 6 was an older sister or an older brother to show me the ropes of life. Teach me, how things were. I wanted to learn about their experiences, but I didn't have that because I was an only child. And for much of my life, I had to figure out things on my own. And I often did it the hard way. And so through this experience, and through learning these lessons the hard way, I wouldn't wish it upon anyone to learn that we do ourselves a disservice by defining ourselves by one thing, and to think that we are alone in our struggle. I am not my hips. I am not dance. I am so much more than that. And I'm not alone. Now, in order to feel enough, I had to get out of the mirror and I had to get into service. Service for myself and service for others. And so I worked on my self-love. I got involved in a nonprofit. I mentored 15 8th grade girls at a school not too far away from here. And what I learned is that when I stopped being Alexa the dancer, when I stepped off the stage and I got into reality, and I looked around and I realized that other girls struggled with what I struggled with. And so I started sharing my story because I wish someone had done that for me. And something amazing happened when I started talking about my experience. When I shared my story, other girls, their eyes opened. And they started sharing their stories. They started speaking their truth. And we learned from one another in that way. Now, I think the most human aspect of this whole experience is that I'm still scarred. I'm at this weird point where I'm so proud of everything I've accomplished and how much I've grown, but there's a part of me that's still broken. And I'll wait for the day that I dance again, because that hasn't happened yet. So maybe some of you are in that place too. Maybe you have a scar that you battle each and every day. Maybe we're in this place together. I want to know how you battle that scar, because you're not alone. What helps me is just to remind myself that even in my imperfection, I am enough. Thank you.